I have more to talk about that I didn't finish this morning that I remembered when I got off. So I'm going to talk about it right now. It's Mars colonies, more about Mars colonies, and more to me and Brandon Lee's story. Okay, so I'm just going to write Mars, remind myself. I'm going to start with Brandon's. So I so the same thing happened with Brandon Lee that's basically happening right now with Sebastian and Annabelle. That I'm like popping through her suit and I'm changing her DNA. And that was pretty clear with Sebastian Stan's freak out last night that we all heard. And then I got this download from Brandon last night. Oh, by the way, the sex tape that Tim is talking about, it's in the ether. It's not physical. It's not physical. Okay, so it's not physical, but supposedly it was sent out etherically, and they were thanking him etherically for it. Okay, so I know that I know that I love my husbands, and sometimes they are sent out etherically. Okay, so you you know what I mean. What can I say about that? Um, okay, so there's some clarity on that. If it's physical, I did not agree to that. All right, I'll say that. If it's physical, I didn't agree to that. Okay, so they can't have like some kind of AI thing of me on the internet and then be like, oh, she agreed to it. No, I didn't agree to it. I did not agree to it. Okay. So, um, so, then it inspires people like Kim Kardashian to do it physically, right? It's not that hard to understand. Okay. I think Paris Hilton also has one as well. Um, so, so what am I, y'all? Am I royal? Did y'all sign a non-compete with me? Didn't I go over this with you? Anyway, back to the Brandon Lee story. So basically, this happened with Brandon Lee. I want to say it was in the 70s. I want to say it was 1973. So it was before the 90s. And Brandon was around the same age that he was when he died in the 70s. And I think I was around probably his age, around 28 or so. And the same thing happened. Um, my DNA was started being pulled through his fiance at the time, Eliza, and started to come through her like a little bit here, a little bit there. And then eventually I was pulled all the way through her in the 70s. And because it affected her DNA so much, I was pulled through a light tunnel, Teletubby light tunnel. And I was pulled through it, and it was me and Brandon. And then the next thing that happened was I want to say it caused the attack of the clones, right? And then it started to cause the infection, which caused the zombie infection. And it caused me to turn into a 12, 13-year-old girl. That was the next thing that happened. And then the space activator happened. And then it reset the timeline to the 1994 timeline where it was 1994 and or whatever 1992 to 1994. And I was 12 years old in 1992, so it reset to that timeline, and then it reset to this timeline basically. Okay, so it reset to this timeline, and um, so then I got put in this timeline, and I was 12 years old again, and then Brandon had an accident on the set of The Crow and he died. So that's that's called history repeating itself, which we should be well aware of by now. And so it did cause an infection, and it did cause a zombie infection. It did cause a zombie apocalypse. And, none of that's possible because this is the real world. Okay, none of that actually happened. And the only thing that happened was I grew up from 1980 and I never met Brandon Lee. And, you know, he had an accident on the set and that's how he died. And that's the only thing that happened. It has absolutely nothing to do with um, Sebastian Stan and Annabelle, and none of this is real. And just go back to your normal life and know that none of this can actually happen in this normal life. Because we're set on this timeline, and timelines can't shift like that. And this is just my art, and this is just a story that I'm making up in my head, and it's just art. And now I'm just dictating a sci-fi movie to y'all. That's all I'm doing. It's just dictating a sci-fi movie. Okay, so the Mars colonies. So the Mars colonies, did happen on Mars, and we might be on Mars again. We might be trapped on Mars again. And we're calling it planet Earth. We're refusing to acknowledge that we are actually on Mars. We call it climate change, as to what's going to happen to the planet. And the scientists are desperate to get to your attention. Where the fuck's my inhaler? I don't know where I put it. And the scientists are desperate to get your attention about climate change. And the planet's going to end up looking like Mars, like a complete desert planet. And that's due to climate change, and that's not due to anything spiritual. So what happened on Mars was, and I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Oh, there it is. Okay. So on Mars, happened probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago on Mars. They had humans on Mars. They look like this. Okay, this is what humans on Mars look like. Barbarians, basically. There's lots of art from these Mars colonies by Frank Frazetta. Frank Frazetta. Here's another one. There's me. There's fake mothers holding me hostage. What do you mean? We're lists. Okay, they're holding me hostage because they're like, we're her fathers, right? And then they get the skadoosh because of that. Okay, but that's what we looked like on Mars. Okay, and Frank Frazetta, and Boris something is another name of another artist that draws the Mars colonies. Basically, you can look up 70s fantasy art because they don't want to admit it's real and that it happened. And then you'll see all of this artwork from this time period on Mars. that caused the Great Fall on Mars, where they refused to acknowledge the spiritual aspect of themselves. And it was the great cats that we call Lyrans, and they fought with the Lyrans, and there's fights of them fighting with the Lyrans. In this fantasy art. And this is the one that drew that painting that I was trying to find. But anyway, why is it now a fucking black-haired model? Last night I looked up Princess of Mars and it was blonde-haired. Now it's black-haired. How weird is that? There it is. She had blonde hair, I swear, but now she has like a helmet on, so it's like a She-Ra and He-Man type thing, right? Okay, but that one's called Princess of Mars, which I clearly was then, and I clearly am now. And they were ignoring me then. I sent down the Lyrans. Is that a Lyran? There's a Lyran right there. And it's sending down the Lyrans again to stand up for the spiritual aspect of humanity. And we will fall yet again because of you stupid motherfuckers that don't want to listen. So anyway, that happened already, and it's happening again. And it's because y'all are choosing to ignore the spiritual aspect of you called your soul, which is me, Alyssa Janello. And you just go on with your 3D life or whatever. And there, Mars Colonies, it was very based on sexual activity. It was extremely based on like sexual activity and like obviously fighting and like the raw portions of humanity or whatever, you know. And it's like now it's like it's the complete opposite. Now it's like you got to be like hoity-toity and like very like, you know, polite and stuff like that or whatever, and they think like acting like that is not going to cause the fall. It's just going in the complete polar opposite. It's going to cause the same conclusion to humanity, and we will fall to a lower version of Earth called Pluto. Okay, maybe we'll fall to Pluto. I don't know. But anyway, it's like watching like a train crash in action. It's like I don't know how much I can talk, like how much I, you know, like how much I need to say, like to try to get it through humanity. And maybe humanity's just never going to listen to me, you know, because that's what it seems like every single day. Like y'all doing the Golden Globes, like the spiritual aspect of you doesn't exist, and it does exist, and you have plenty of evidence that it does exist, and you should feel more comfortable to like speak out loud about this because it is the fall of humanity, and we will reincarnate into a lower earthly plane and play this all out again. Because y'all think you were my fathers, and then you know you continue to like, you're not my fathers. Okay, you're supposed to be my mother's, and you're supposed to be a lot kinder to me. Anyway, those were more of the downloads, and I just wanted to share them with y'all today, and thank you for not appreciating me yet again.